It is time for Political Breakfast. We are live this morning, 2 days after the presidential debate between Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump. Polls are being generated to track if either move the needle in his or her direction, particularly in key battleground states like Georgia. The latest polls tracked by the New York Times showed Trump and Harris are still neck and neck in Georgia. Strategist Brian Robinson and Tharon Johnson are both here to give perspective this morning. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Well,
good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Well, many surveys of voters nationwide, including undecided swing voters, suggest that Harris won the debate. But Brian, I'll begin with you and then Tharon. Why aren't we seeing that in the national polling?
Well, it's still a bit early yet. We really need to kind of wait a week to let this kind of seep through the electorate and get some data compiled that makes sense. But I think in the quick snapshot, you are absolutely right. If you turned on any TV station, even conservative-leaning media said on the stylistic points of a debate, Kamala Harris won it. But when it comes to undecided voters who perhaps are looking for something different than what pundits and analysts are, it wasn't a clear win. They didn't necessarily flock to her because they thought she landed more punches than Donald Trump did. There were moments in the debate that may explain it. Like, she didn't give a great answer on, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? She did have a few policy Christmas tree items that are intended to address people's concerns about the cost of living. But I don't think that much of that really computed with folks as far as how it would make their lives better. And we also saw evasions on really important issues when it comes to decriminalizing illegal immigration, when it comes to defunding the police. She didn't get to some of those things and why she changed her opinions on them. I think voters took note of those moments.
Yeah, Tharon, what are you hearing in Georgia? Are you surprised that she's still neck and neck in the battleground states, particularly after this debate?
Well, Lisa, as you started off this program, it's only been 2 days. Mm-hmm. And as Brian knows, and Lisa, you've covered this for many, many years, you have to go into the field to poll people immediately after the election. So right now, as we are live on Political Breakfast, people are getting inundated with text messages, live calls, to participate in this polling. So give it another 48 hours. And what I predict is that you will see a bump in 6 battleground states. Before she even entered the debate the other night, Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, was leading in 4, not tied, leading in 4 of the 6 critical battleground states. And so she went into the debate with that sustained momentum. But, we can get all into the details about, what she didn't answer. But let's talk about what Donald Trump didn't do. Number one, he wasn't presidential. And she was way more presidential, way more prepared, and way more substantive than he was. He spent time spreading lies about people eating cats and dogs. He continued to distort, just lie about the Biden-Harris record. But when she was her strongest, Lisa, and you've heard me talk about this, is when she talked about reproductive freedom. Mm-hmm. She gave those stories about how Donald Trump has stripped the right for a woman to choose what she wants to do with her body. She had a very, very specific message about how she's going to deal with the war in Ukraine. She reached out to people at the very end, and this was the closing moment, Lisa, where I think the independents are swinging her way. Donald Trump said nothing about asking moderates and independents to join him in his campaign. She had the best closing statement in her debate that I've seen with any president. And what she talked about was the future. She talked about how we can't go back, and that it's a brighter future ahead, and that she's a new generation of leadership. And I think that's going to be the defining moment. But let me just warn Democrats, we can't get complacent. Debates don't win elections, but this debate 2 days later, Lisa, I feel much better than I did in the last Biden-Trump debate. So we've now got to even work harder because the other side is more fired up than they were after the last debate.
Yeah, Brian, do you have a pulse on what Republicans are thinking about Trump's performance and how it may help or hurt his chances here in Georgia?
What I consistently hear is the same as what the pundits say. Yeah, he lost the race, he lost the debate, but doesn't matter. Is it going to move votes in these swing states? This handful of undecided. It's really, we're talking about tens of thousands of people. That's it. Out of the 160 million who may vote, we're talking about tens of thousands. So we really have to dig in on who those folks are. One thing, Tharon mentioned that we'll have some data by next week, so we can discuss that on next week's show. But Larry Sabato, University of Virginia, his crystal ball has come out with a report showing just basically dead heats. I mean, almost like 48-48, 47-48 across the board in the states that matter. I mean, just you can't predict who's going to win. But he makes the point that in the last couple of cycles, Democrats have overperformed in polling what they actually delivered on election day. If that's the case, we still have an inherent organic Trump lead in most of these states, if that holds. And that's not my view. That's Larry Sabato's. So I still think we can't forget that the 538 averages give Trump a 58% chance of winning. So next week, I think we'll have a better idea of, did Kamala Harris change that framework? I'm not saying she did or didn't, but it's certainly possible.
We went into, the debate talking about how important messaging would be. And then, there was the line executing babies after birth and things like that. Tharon, are you surprised that that hasn't come across as extremely damaging to Donald Trump?
It is damaging, and it's damaging to Republicans that will have the courage to tell you, Lisa, I'm in Washington, D.C. right now at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Leadership Conference. I am going around to a lot of different events where Republicans are present. What they would say to you privately, Lisa, and B-Rob knows this, is that one, Donald Trump lost the debate. Two, they feel much better about Kamala Harris if she were to win president. They can live with her. And that was what she achieved. I can live with her, right? She's not that bad. Thirdly, they have just been desensitized to Trump. The Republicans and some moderates and independents just expect this from him. But why this debate to me, Lisa, is so monumental is that it's a direct contrast in what Democrats and the American people saw in the last debate. So now, when you hear Brian talk about how polling and his turnout, he's right. And but B-Rob knows this. I will put the Democratic turnout machine in these battleground states up against the Republican machines any day. And the last thing is that you got to follow the money. Look at the money. Look at how much people are giving. Look at the Republicans, Lisa. Now we're up to 200. We'll probably be up to maybe 500 by the time this election happens, of Republicans who once supported Donald Trump, some never supported him, are coming out to say, hey, we need to join this movement with Kamala Harris. And then the last thing that I am so proud of.
We got 10 seconds, Tharon. Sorry. Don't want to cut you off. The conversation continues. We'll continue next week.
I was very present about is that she immediately went up with an ad right now in battleground states talking about leadership. And I think that's where the campaign tone is sort of going to go going forward.
All right. Thanks, guys, for checking in. More to come next week.